Today, Delaware is home to just over 1 million people. It is known for its history and becoming the first state of the United States. But how did this happen? How did we get here? There's a lot more to Delaware's history other than that. Well, this is the perfect place for you. Delaware has a bit of history before the United States was even made. It started off in 1609 with this guy named Henry Hudson discovering the Delaware Bay, which caused Europeans to start establishing settlements, specifically the Dutch and the Swedes. Speaking of which, in 1631, Dutch traders created a colony named Zwa.
One eternity later.
It's an archaic Dutch word that means Swan Valley, but the colony was destroyed by the natives because the natives and the Dutch didn't like each other, and they wanted their land back. But the natives' attempts to kick out the Europeans were eventually unsuccessful because in like 7 years, out of all the people, the Swedish had founded another fort, named Fort Christina. Very creative, I know. In 1638, that would later be named Wilmington, being the first colony established by the Europeans in modern-day Delaware, which puts it in the middle colonies. There were 3 main tribes in Delaware, and they were named Munsi, Unami, and Unalachigo. Anyway, they spoke mostly Algonquian, and Lenape. The modern-day Native American population in Delaware is 3,309, and the amount of people that still speak Lenape today is only 10 people. 10 people! And we cannot talk about the Native Americans without talking about their relationship with us, the colonists. So, as you might have noticed earlier when I was talking about when Delaware was founded, I said that the Native Americans had destroyed the Dutch settlement due to the fact that they didn't like each other. Well, that was true, but the truer version of that is because of differences in their culture. The Europeans wanted to take over as much stuff as possible, and the Native Americans just wanted to do their own thing. But that doesn't talk about the entirety of the history of the relations between the natives and the colonizers. Because for most of history, the colonizers considered the natives to be savage and heathen. And the natives, of course, didn't really like them because, well, we're basically aliens to them. And we had all this cool technology they had no idea about, and now we're trying to take over everything. So of course, they tried at times to get on our good side, such as trading with the Europeans and helping them do stuff, which only caused more disease and caused more Native Americans to lose their lives. Only until recently the government passed an act named the American Religious Freedom Act in 1978. That act would allow Native American people to celebrate their own culture because ever since then, it was illegal to celebrate their own culture, which is very uncool. Delaware has a population of 1.018 million people modern day, but when it was first established, it had a population of around 185 people in 1650, with this funny website saying so. Delaware had the proprietary system as its type of government, which is basically when people and companies get permission from the crown to establish overseas colonies. Then the government was run by these people who established the colony, but they would need approval from the crown for any types of laws to be established. Delaware also has religious people, obviously, but it's important to know that it has changed over time. When Delaware was first settled by Swedish people and Dutch people, they were mostly Lutheran or they believed in Dutch things. Whatever the Dutch believed in. Modern day Delaware, though, is mostly Christian, Roman Catholics, and Methodists among most of the state's religion. We also can't forget to talk about the ethnicity of the colony and the immigrants that went to Delaware. Delaware, the colony, had people mostly from the British Isles, enslaved people from Africa, and a little bit of German people, with very few natives still remaining in Delaware. And we cannot talk about colonial Delaware's population without talking about the fact it had slaves. In 1790, with the total population of Delaware being around 59,000 people and there being around 8,887 slaves, with the indentured servant number not being known, but throughout the 1870s and the 1890s, they sent around 500,000 indentured servants to the entirety of the American colony. So, as you could imagine, there were quite a bit of servants in Delaware. The ethnic makeup of Delaware in 1790 in percentages was around 78.5% white and 21.6% black. Around 30.5% was of Hispanic origin and 69.5% was not of Hispanic origin. Around 16% of the self-employed residents were business owners. They made a bunch of money. When it comes to Delaware, they have a lot of important people in their past. From William Penn being the founder of Delaware to Caesar Rodney, who was one of the founding fathers. Another important person in Delaware's past is Alexander D. We're calling him D because I'm not saying that. He was considered the most colorful and influential man in the history of colonial Delaware. Throughout his time in Delaware, D set up a trading relationship with Augustine Manor. Then they started the Smuggler's Path, which led from New Bohemia, which is now called Bohemia Manor, to whatever that place is, which is now called Odessa Dell. Richard Bassett is one of the most popular and interesting to learn about in Delaware's past. He was the 4th governor of Delaware. He was born April 2nd, 1725. He studied law in Dover, Delaware, then got involved in the Revolutionary War. When he retired from the military, he served on the Delaware Council of Safety from 1776 through 77. He also served in the U.S. Senate from 1789 through 93. Then he was appointed Chief Justice of the Court of Common Pleas. When he resigned from that, then he got elected as governor of Delaware. And on January 9th, 1798, he was sworn to office. Number 1. Colonial Delaware was known as New Netherland and New Sweden, which is super creative. I applaud them for their creativity. Number 2. It was the first state to ratify the federal constitution, so it's technically the first state in the United States. Number 3. Delaware's economy relied mostly on selling tobacco. Its most valuable natural resources were iron ore, corn, and of course, tobacco. Number 4. Delaware's size is 1,949 square miles. For comparison, Idaho's 83,594 square miles.